Welcome to the first in our three-part Virtual Excursions training program. My name's Jackie Randalls and I've coordinated this program for national delivery as part of my role managing Inspiring Australia in New South Wales. For those new to Inspiring Australia, it's the national strategy for public engagement with STEM. We work with hundreds of community partners to connect scientific researchers to big audiences. And today's training is all about doing just that in the virtual world. It will be produced and delivered by Fizzics Education, Sydney Science Education and Refraction Media. And I'd like to acknowledge support from the New South Wales Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer and Inspiring Australia's state programs in New South Wales, the ACT, Queensland, Western Australia and South Australia.
Throughout the session today, I'll go from this space here, so take a mental picture, and then we'll come back a little bit later on and I will have an absolute blank canvas with all of my lights off, and just to show what you can do to make a difference in your space. And then I'll come back towards the end and have those changes made. Hi, Ben. So I've got one of the pan cameras that Steve was talking about before, and I've also got one of the Swamp USB 700 desk mics, which is great. It sits in front of me here, and it's nice and easy. What I want to also show at the moment is the difference. Hopefully some of you took a picture in your mind of the room I had before. I want to show you what the impacts of lighting are. So at the moment, I've closed a door here. I had a light coming from this direction and I had a window. I've closed the blinds. My sound's also going to be different because all of my soft furnishings around, all of the other props in my room have been removed. So now I've got lots of shadow on my face, shadow behind me, and my audio's bouncing off those hard surfaces. So it's a really simple way to show the difference of what's in your room can make, and how simple by opening a blind and opening a door and letting more light in that I can make those changes. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to have a pause, and I'm going to make those changes, and we're going to move on to our next speaker, and you'll be able to come back and see me a little bit later on through the session, and I'm going to reset this room again, and then we can have a discussion and some questions about how those changes can be made.
Karen, you've done a bit of a change in your background there, I can see.
That's right, Ben. I have redesigned my space just to give everyone an idea how it can be done quite quickly. So from the beginning, I had something else behind me. I had a pot plant. I then closed my blind. So to this side, I have a window and I closed it. I closed a light, turned a light off ahead of me and closed a door. It's great if I've got the kids and the dog, I keep that door closed so I don't get unexpected requests for snacks. That's from the dog as well. But when there's no one else here, it's great because it actually gives me light. And that means I'm really getting that three-directional light that Steve was talking about. You can see I haven't actually changed my camera angle. I don't have the shadow that was sitting above my head as clearly. The light on my face has changed, so I don't have that dark shadow on across my face. And I've been able to put some props in my space. So Steve was mentioning about cameras. So I've got one of the Logitech PZ something. Obviously, cameras are not my expertise, but what I love about it is I get this with it. For me, this allows me to have presets, so I can zoom into things. So as I'm talking, I might be doing a session on invertebrates in your backyard, which is one of the things I've done about a dozen of them in the last few weeks for kids doing homeschool. So I've got live stick insects, and I'm able to then zoom in here and point out a stick insect that is having a little munch on some plants here and use the space to have those specimens with me. I can then also pan across to frogs in your backyard, and I can show, we're just getting our zoom. So this is an automatic zoom camera. So sometimes it doesn't want to pick it up straight away. So there we go. So this is a green tree frog. that I can show on camera. I actually feed this on this frog on camera as well. When he's moving around, I can show his 4 fingers and his 5 toes, and you know, he's just having a nice lovely time, and it's very engaging to have these options. So it's quite simple for me at a press of a button to use the capacity of my camera. Always pausing a little bit because it takes a while to pan around. Options as well, if I was sharing slides, so I often will share PowerPoint presentations, I can then do a bit of my camera switching whilst I'm talking about one of the slides. So when we come back from slide share, after I've been talking about the features of frogs, we're right on the frog there. The same way with the stick insects. So you can actually use your room really well by having a camera that does have a couple of presets. Ben does it wonderfully in his room by just he's switching between different cameras. So it's a great way if you're doing it on a budget, or you're actually having something a bit further off camera, to then have a separate camera and you just switch between those 2 cameras. And that enables you to have quite a dynamic presentation, be quite engaging, and using simple technology to do that. Ben and I will definitely be talking a lot more about creating those engaging experiences as well. But I really wanted to follow up from what Steve had been discussing with camera and lighting, and Ben with audio, about the simple things you can do with basic equipment to make a real difference in your space. So going from one room to a blank room to a new room within this one session, you can really do a lot with what you put around you, and it makes it more personal, it makes it more engaging. So it's quite important to think about that. One of the other things that I've done, if I zoom out a moment, I can kind of give you an idea about the size of my space. So here's actually my normal desk that I work with facing this way on my computer. I've actually, lovely handy snack room very close by, but I'm in a really quite odd small space. And if I pan down a little bit, this is a small table I bought from Bunnings. It's only 50 centimetres deep, more than enough room for me to be able to put props on and work on. And I'm actually facing a wall that's probably about 1 metre away from me. So by zooming in, making it a tight shot, I can create this sense of space, and it's a really good opportunity to think about that direction. You know, if I was facing this way, my camera would be shooting out into a big empty space, and that's the backdrop everyone would be able to see. By turning myself, I create a different space. So it's a really good option to actually have something behind you, like Ben can green screen and I can put props there. I'm going to throw to Ben now. He's got something to add about creating that space.
Absolutely. I'm just going to do a real quick demo of that. In fact, Paul asked, how do you swap cameras in flight? It's very dependent on the conference system. You might be using Zoho Showtime. You might be using Skype for Business, or you might be using Microsoft Teams, Meet. There's heaps of them. Thing is, they're all got different things. So if you're working one that can handle multiple cameras, in this case, I'm playing with Zoom. Next to the camera, there is a pointing up chevron, like an arrow going up. I'm going to click on it now, and I get my list of the 3 cameras I currently have. Right now, I'm talking to the camera directly, looking down its barrel, rather than looking at Karen, which I can currently see. If I go over this way and go this way, suddenly it changes. I'm now looking at my little guy over here that I can pick up and make everyone dizzy if I wanted to. Never usually that great to do that for long, but it means I can dynamically look at it. Now, the trick is, though, you have to be aware of which camera is actually on. Currently, my camera it's got a blue light on it telling me that one is actually live, and it's not that one over there. Because if I look over here, now you're looking at the side of my face the whole time, and that's less potentially engaging. Just be aware of that. You can totally change whatever you want, whatever you're showing, as long as you've already got it ready to go to show things. I mean, I could have an experiment happening here. Having multiple cameras matters, but I must admit, you can get a little lost, especially if you've got multiple environments. I said this last week. It's like a confessional. I've been doing this for 10 years, and yet most of my time has been spent working with one of these things, a bit like Karen, and using a simple camera that goes left, right, up, and down, and having about 9 camera presets. And a number of you in this conference will have one of these at your site. Just learn to use your presets. It's going to save you a lot of time. Now, Karen, you might have had a few questions come through, I suspect. How are you doing, Jackie, with questions for Karen?
Yes, so we have a question for Karen from Rena about the remote control. Does it come with the camera, and which model is it?
It does come with the camera, and it's the PZ. Oh, there we go. Steve's got it up on the screen if we can flick to him.
Logitech PTZ. Logitech PTZ HD2. Sorry, I've got a typo there. PTZ HD2.
And it is excellent. So it does come with the camera, which is excellent. It's got a home, so you can actually set your home and then have 3 additional presets. But even on the fly, if I didn't have a preset and I'm like, I would really like to show you guys what's happening inside the Earth, I can just move myself over, and if I'm not too far off, I can then zoom in at that point and really see the close-up of the model behind me there. So you can actually do quite a lot within your space, even if you haven't set it up as a preset. The zoom on these is excellent, and it's one of the things, if you're doing a lot of these very regularly and you're doing lots of pieces to camera, we can record through this as well. You know, I've probably done about 15 or so sessions in the last month, and that's not including all the meetings and everything else. So it's definitely worthwhile if you're doing a lot of it. If it's a one-off, you may then look at, you know, either hiring a camera or just using what you've already got available. So it's definitely an option if you're going to be doing this a lot and you can get your value for money. I absolutely love it. I would have been lost in the last 6 weeks without this camera, because I like to zoom in. I like to create that dynamic interaction by having presets. So yeah, I definitely think it's worthwhile.
Can I just throw in there too that we say presets, and I've got to be aware of our vocabulary too, because like I said it, Karen said it, we can't help ourselves. Preset is literally you've got it set up. Now notice when Karen, hey Karen, can you do a quick preset, and I'll stop talking very soon. Back and there we go. One of the things with Zoom is if we do if I talk, it'll then come up on the screen rather than me. When we flick back to Karen, you'll see quite a great little shot. The thing is about presets, if you don't have them set, if you need to pan left, right, up and down, it's very slow for the audience to watch that happen. Some cameras are very quick, really quick on changing their views. Others are a little bit slower. Sometimes your preset will come out of view and you'll have to put your hand right in front of it and then put your hand backwards for it to come back into focus. Whereas if you do it manually, you can totally miss the mark where the focus is, and you might present for 15 minutes as a complete blur. And so I might actually stop talking, because the way Zoom works is voice activated. And Karen, show us what you got.
So this is zooming into that frog again. So the frog and the stick insects were preset. So they were ones that I did plan ahead. When I went to the volcano image, that wasn't a preset. That was me going, you know what? I think I'm pretty close. I think I can move my body out of the way. Let me zoom back in, because it was about my head height. So by moving just a little bit there, I was able just to kind of zoom in without too much fuss. I can even then go into camera and, you know, and point specifically to something as well. But it's not as great. So you can, as Ben said, miss the mark and spend a long time fiddling around, and it's very distracting for the audience. Even having the Zoom preset can sometimes take a little bit of time to focus as well. So if you use it well, it can be a really integrated part of your presentation. And again, what we've said all the way across the session today is actually practice. Spend time with your equipment, spend time on the platform that you're using. For my case, I do a lot of things through Zoom. So I'm looking at the platform for child protection. I'm looking at the platform for ease of me ticking people off coming into a session. I'm looking at settings that will work. I've got settings of, you know, having people automatically on mute or automatically on video. So testing everything, testing your camera, your audio, your lighting before. And I think Heather said it as well, making sure you practice to camera. It is one of those things that is people fundamentally don't like seeing themselves on camera, but it's definitely something just to practice, to get used to it, and where your camera versus your screen is. If I'm looking at my screen here, I'm missing where my camera is. So making sure my eyes are always hitting my camera as well. So it means I'm having a more personal experience with you than looking down at a keyboard, off to the side, or over to somewhere else. That can be distracting for your audience as well. Yes, Jackie, we've got a question.
Yes, Karen, Jess was just asking, do you have a screen in front of you so you can see what you're zoomed into and looking at?
Yes, I do. So it was a very interesting configuration of a very tall plant stand, a wooden plant stand that I had my camera on, and then a wooden stool that sat in front of it that I had my screen on. So Steve very gratefully has actually made me something that's a little bit more sophisticated, but absolutely using things around your home to get your camera height. If I was in a bigger space, I usually present standing up. I walk around a bit, so I would then need my camera higher. Because I'm working from home, I'm sitting. It controls me a little bit more, so I don't literally wander off screen. So it means my camera is positioned lower. So having a plant stand works really well. An old bookshelf on its side, something that you can put your camera on, and then have your screen as close as possible, because it creates that really nice connection of what you're seeing, what your audience is seeing, and enables your eyes to be as close as it can be to the camera.
Thank you for joining us for the Virtual Excursions training, supported by Inspiring Australia. You can find more information and top tips on the Virtual Excursions Australia website.